this one, this is going to be... Oh, this is the same video, actually, but different clip. And they're going to talk about men quitting their jobs because of social status. Ken and Jade again.
I hate that it's men quitting jobs to be wrong.
Something about that it's men. Well, women aren't quitting their jobs at high rates. A lot of women quit because of COVID,
Don't get me started.
But
Don't
no.
even get me started, okay?
Well, but
Here we
then,
go.
well, you might agree with him on this one then.
That I looked at, and it's coming from a new study from the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. Men are dropping out of the labor force because they're upset about their social status. I'm just going to let that sit for a second.
Oh, God, we got to let that sit. I
think we should explain it before we let it sit.
We got to let it sit. I'm angry. They're quitting because of social status. Are you angry? I'm angry.
I want to hear a little bit more before I decide whether I'm angry or I care or I don't know.
I'm not shocked at all. I mean,
I'm not surprised that people are quitting their jobs. The zoom in on men is curious, but
well, I know the ending here. The ending here is he didn't actually really read the article.
I don't know that I've read a more pathetic headline in my lifetime. I want to say it again. I want you to hear what it really is saying. Headline is, men are dropping out of labor
This guy sounds like my fucking racist grandpa.
force because they're upset about their social status. What it should say is, men are quitting because it's not going the way they want it to.
man.
I'm not making as much money as the other guy. So I'm going to go home and live off of mom and dad.
Is that what the article said? That's not the headline saying.
No, so why don't we go ahead and we'll do the article real quick before we get too much. So men are dropping out of the labor force because they're upset about their social status. Part of this is they don't have, these are guys that don't have a 4-year degree or above. And so they're between 25 and 54. So these are high school only. And a lot of them are dropping out because their bosses are making more money. But what they also focus on here is this. Non-college educated men have seen their pay shrink by more than 30% since 1980. So these guys are making 2/3 what people in 1980 were making doing the same job. Right? As where guys with college education rose by 20%. So the bosses are making more money and they're making less than they would have been 40 years ago. All right. The author of this study, Pingy Wu, for many workers, a job not only offers financial security, it also affirms their status, which is tied to their position relative to their age, peers, and many social outcomes. So your ability to meet women, get married, buy a house, all that stuff is tied to a little bit to your job and your social status. And if it's constantly declining, you're the guys you're working for going up, then yeah, what's the point, right? So that's kind of what they were saying here. Now, what was the other thing I was going to say? So if the increasing wage gap, once again, wealth inequality, what we're talking about, increasing wage gap between high and low earners directly or indirectly affects men's aggregate labor supply, wage inequality might have carried wider implications to the economy than previously believed. So her whole argument here in this study is it's got to the point where the inequality gap is so big, right? Think about it, Lacey. If you and I were working at a company and next year they lowered your pay by 10% and raised mine by 10%, you'd want to fucking quit too. If we worked there at the same time in 5 years, you never got a raise and I got a raise every year, you'd want to quit.
Listen, even if you didn't get the raise every year, if I've been there 5 years and nobody's even inching me up.
Yeah. And you're just you're basically always going to be the serf, the toady. That's all you're ever going to be.
I hate to go yada yada inflation because I'm really not even the person who's all about talking about inflation, but like at that point, losing money every year.
Right. And then while you're doing that, you're working all those hours and doing all that stuff. Meanwhile, your boss is showing up in their convertible with their hot new girlfriend, and you can't even afford to go on a date. And it's hard to meet women when you're broke. You know, even if you're the best looking guy in the world, it's hard to meet women when you're broke. It's just hard. And so, yeah, I can see where, like, he's see the crybaby thing. Oh, no, no. Well, but what's the other alternative? The alternative is you just keep continuing on this path forever and ever and never get anywhere. Great, I'm making my boss money, but what's in it for me? You know? So I don't know where he's going to, I can't remember where he goes with this. We'll watch it real quick, but that's kind of the whole point of the article. So that was the article. Let's see what his interpretation is.
No flake? You wimp? What is happening here? All right, now, before I go further into data, I got to take 30 seconds on this. And some of you are going to say, oh, you're old school or you're a boomer. Well, number one, yes, I am old school. Number two, I'm not a boomer. I'm a proud member of Generation X, whatever the crap that means. I've never understood what that means.
It means you were born in the 70s. These people are idiots, dude. I don't know this sometimes.
I know which generation I'm in, and all it means is where you fall on a numeric chart of years.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
That's all it is.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah. But he's the career expert, and he doesn't know what the generations are. Okay.
But let me tell you something. You know where this starts? It's a total generation, where we tried to make everybody feel good, and we gave everybody a trophy or a participation ribbon for showing up. And I got news for you people. This is what happens when we try to make everybody feel good, and we try to avoid having them feel the sting of loss. I got news for you.
I
There's
don't feel
first
like
place.
this correlation makes any sense.
Well, first
You're
off,
connecting dots that I don't think connect.
that's my point. It's where in the article did she say giving children trophies makes them men that didn't graduate from high school that are miserable and underpaid and quit their jobs? How do any of these things relate?
Correlation.
Yeah.
I think you could link the participation award thing to certain issues in the realm of employment, but I don't think this study is one of them at all.
Well, no, I even looked up the participation trophy thing, and the psychological arguments are, yeah, that it's a good thing for kids that are under 7 or 8, right? Because they don't really understand the competition stuff yet, right? But once they get to 8, it's a bad thing because they don't appreciate it because they know the difference between winning and losing.
Right.
But but yeah, when they're little, what you're trying to teach them is no. What's important is that you showed up and you participated and you worked as a team. So here's a trophy. Here's a reward for that to make you feel good about it. That's it. Now, does that lead to those kids thinking they deserve more in life? Or there's no correlation or study that says that. The other thing about it too is that a lot of the places where you see that kind of participation trophy stuff is suburbs and cities, right? The guys he's talking about, mostly in the South, rural communities, in conservative communities where they don't generally do that kind of stuff. So the guys he's talking about probably never got a participation trophy. And the other thing to bitch about, participation trophies, wasn't really a thing until the 2000s. So the oldest person today that could probably be spoiled by a participation trophy would be in their early to mid-20s. Right? Well, this study, it's guys over 25.
Right, so only the very bottom layer, age-wise,
right,
of this study might have had that play.
Yeah, so the people that we're talking about were born in the 90s or the 80s. Some in the 70s. So I grew up in the 80s. I mean, in the 90s. I didn't ever get a participation trophy. You got a trophy if you won. Right? And, when you're little, it's kind of devastating when you don't get a trophy. But when you're 8 or 9, you're like, yeah, we lost. We sucked. We got to do better next time. But yeah, so this idea that this is a thing, okay, we're just too nice to people. We're just too sweet and nice. It's like, yeah, but you're talking about stuff that didn't occur until the 2000s, affecting people that were already in their probably 20s, or probably 13 or 14 by the time this stuff was going on. So the group you're talking about didn't have any of this shit. Which is, you'd think would be an important thing to understand generations for the career expert talking about why people are in certain careers. Especially if you're saying, oh, well, what affects them is how they were raised. Well, dude, you don't even know who you're talking about. But here it is.
And then there's loser. I'm just being honest.
He just described himself, sorry. And then there's loser.
Well, listen, you said, well, kid, what about the Olympics? They got the gold medal, the silver medal, the bronze medal. Well, these are Olympians who work really hard. We should acknowledge first, second, third place. But in youth soccer, when the score is 5-0, I got news for you, little buddy. You lost. You lost 5-0. And by the way, the 5-year-olds know. These kids are smart enough to realize that
Gosh. Kind of makes you wish he was your dad. You lost, little buddy. You're a loser. Thanks, Dad.
It was like, I was hoping he was going to say, I hope you had fun.
You did your best. Next time we could do things differently. Shit. Suppose.
Right, something
You lost.
More uplifting than that. I mean, it doesn't have to be a, here's your trophy scenario, but, come on.
Yeah, you're a loser. Just suck it up, loser.
Oh, boy, okay.
You're going to spend the rest of your life working for some guy making a lot less than he does. And then when you want to quit because you're miserable and you can't find a date and you're alone and making shit, you need to keep sucking it up and doing it until you die. Because you're a loser. I mean, that's his whole fucking argument. Now, I want to get back to this, though. Where in the study or in the article did Dr. Wu attribute any of this shit to this? She attributed the problem to income inequality. This is all a big straw man.
And he's talking about 5-year-old losing at soccer games or something.
Right. It's a big straw man. It's a big straw man. And the reason he has to do it is because his whole belief is that this is all individual. It's all personal. There's nothing about society or the system that creates this problem. Right? And I know we've gotten some of you guys comment, well, you guys are bitching about the system and society. Nah. What are you saying? We should all just give up? No, we're saying you should fucking recognize the problem. You can't deal with the problem until you recognize it. You can't avoid a trap unless you know it's there. I'm sorry, basic shit. That's not revolutionary thinking here. Right? And the bottom line is, if you're in a systemic system where, yeah, okay, I'm making a lot less than people 40 years ago were making the same job. My boss is making a lot more. I'm fucking miserable. My life sucks. Well, you got to start thinking about making a change. And not just quit your job. Well, if you're going to quit, fine. But if you're going to do that, also look at, well, are there programs that could help me go back to school? Because believe it or not, there are a lot of government programs designed to help displaced workers. The problem is they have a hard time getting people to sign up for them. So go look, because they're out there. I'm 30, I'm displaced, I dropped out of high school. I live in a rural community, I'm broke, my life sucks. Go call the local government, call aging and disability services, call social services. Ask them. They will point you in a direction. And the next thing you know, you might be in an engineering class that the government's paying for. Yeah.
Oh, they
Went
know.
at ARNet twice, and we haven't even sniffed the other side of the field.
And you want to know what, Ken? They can handle it.
They can, Jade.
They can handle it. These kids are resilient.
Well, my problem is nobody's arguing this. Nobody's arguing that, okay, so if we just stop giving kids trophies unless they win, they'll stick with jobs they hate that they're underpaid for.
Right.
That's their
This
argument.
was not, they're acting as though that's what they're arguing against, but the study never said anything that seems to be implying that.
Yeah, well, so that's Ken and Jade. Yep.
Wow.
Good stuff. Quality stuff. Obviously didn't read the article because the article doesn't say anything about that. The article says there's a bigger implication for wealth inequality, which is people are going to quit their jobs. You know, and I know it's going to piss some of you off, but that goes back to our whole thing where we were talking about socialism and stuff, and we talked about Marx, and Marx's argument was eventually wealth inequality will get so bad that people will revolt, and that's what's going to overthrow things. You know, and hey, if you guys want to be the wealthy ones when they pull out the guillotines again, it's on you. Lacius and I are not. Yeah, Lacius and I are not getting in that fight.
No.
I mean, we'll try and make sure they don't kill you, but you know, we're not going to risk our limbs for that. So just.
We'll try to use our words.
Yes. I will make a very, very stern argument in your behalf until somebody threatens me physically, and then you're on your own. The Marquis puts a gun in my face, I'm going to be like, yep. Whatever you say, boss.
You know what? At least you're being honest, right?
Yep. All right.